What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up, Brandon? He misses 1 week.
I'm rusty. I missed 1 week and I already lost it. Damn.
You were supposed to wait.
My bad. Do it one more time.
Okay.
Start over?
I'll keep it. No, I'll keep it. Do you want me to keep it in?
Yeah, keep it in.
All right, I'll keep it in. I'll keep it on.
Start all over?
Yeah, start over.
Okay. What's up, you guys, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
And how y'all doing today?
Wow,
Very
Brandon,
good.
that was so
Very
good.
Thank you.
Brandon's back.
I know, bro. Everybody missed your sexy ass voice.
I hope I was missed. Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I missed you,
You were
bro.
missed.
Imagine
Yeah.
all the fans are like, replace him. Finally.
Everybody in the comments was like, finally.
They're like, bring back Patrick.
They're like,
What
great
is
choice.
he?
They're like, Brandon was gone.
How did it feel, bro, to take a week off? That's like your first. This is like your first week off, like,
In like
since
6
we started.
years.
Yeah.
yeah. The only other time I think I missed it was when I graduated. But I don't know. It's not like I could tell them to
yeah.
reschedule.
Me and Julie cried that episode because
you
we missed
actually?
you. We did cry.
You
we
cried
did cry,
that
but not
episode?
because we missed you.
Oh, all right.
No, but not in
Alright.
not in
Damn,
that
why
way.
would you say
Not
that?
in that way.
Not because we cared about you.
No.
We cried because we were happy that you graduated.
Yeah, we were really
we were
proud.
Like, wow, we're so proud.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
sure.
you know how you're my little brother. So
Yeah. Okay.
not in a little bro.
Oh,
Like, you know?
bro.
Yeah, not a little, like trying to, you know.
How was I watched it, but how did the episode go?
It was cool. I did miss your energy though. All love to Patrick and Izzy though for holding it down and being able to support us while you were gone.
Yeah.
It's all love to them.
Yeah.
But I feel like you bring a perspective that's very different because I feel like since Izzy and Patrick are my friends, I mean they're your guys' friends too. Like make no mistake. But I feel like because I met them, I feel like they have a similar theme to
Of
me.
you, yeah.
Like they're an extension
They're
of
like
me.
him.
Yeah.
They're not completely like me, but they're definitely in the similar thing.
I get
Well,
what you mean.
you are very uniquely your own different person.
Yeah.
And so is Julie and so is me. So I
Yeah.
feel like the dynamics just work better.
Gotcha.
I missed your energy, bro.
Thank you.
That's
That
what I
I was
say.
missed.
And this is why you should tell your friends that you missed them more. Come on, guys. Break that toxic
I guess
masculinity.
I missed you, Brandon.
Maybe I should miss weeks more often.
Just,
Oh, he
what's that
feels
saying?
more love
Yeah.
now.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. What is it? Yeah. Wait, you said it. I don't know why I'm fumbling.
He's trying to say the joke louder.
I want the real clip.
I want the clip.
That clip that we're gonna post on TikTok. I want to be in there.
Yeah.
Bro, I feel like TikTok's been doing this glitch where for some reason our reels show the first frame, and so the past like 5 reels are just me, and I've decided to shut the fuck up more.
Okay.
So this episode is gonna be a very empowering episode for Brandon and Julie.
Okay.
Wow.
You're tired of yapping?
It's
That's your
finally
job.
over.
The golden shovel, it's done?
Bruh. Our viewership just went down.
I'm doing the Vince.
It's
I
funny
can't
that
talk.
guy's such a like. I wonder what that is. Some people are just so good at just being memes. Like they're just
Memes?
because Vince McMahon. I mean, I guess to nerd out, but he's like 60 memes. I don't get it. I guess it's like a gift
I would love to be able to become like
Just-
a meme that easily.
to just always just have that in you.
Yeah, like be the butt of the joke. Because I feel like I have strong skin. Although I say that and then maybe somebody will make a mean meme
And
of
it'll-
And then you
me.
start crying.
To me, like the meanest meme that I can think of right now is the poot meme. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, with Demi Lovato.
Yeah, where it's like
where
her all
basically
fucked up.
The joke is that she looks ugly in that picture.
Yeah.
Is it
what you
the
mean.
one where like the flash happens?
Yeah.
She
But have
just looks
you
weird?
seen the other angle where she looks like the other angle of that picture where she looks like amazing?
No, I haven't
No?
seen it.
No, yeah, like that meme will crush my soul, bro. Like if somebody they just kept posting an ugly picture of me, I would cry.
Right now, you
Yeah.
doing that face. Someone's gonna screenshot that.
Oh, no.
You know what is funny though? Whenever I make the thumbnails, I just skip through the episode to see if I can find like a picture of you guys. And sometimes, for all of us, the frame I land on is hilarious.
For some reason, for me, Premiere does this thing where it stretches the image like super
Yeah.
wide, so it looks like we're all like 300 pounds. And it's like the funniest shit ever.
The camera adds 10 pounds, they say. We have 2 cameras.
I know.
So-
I also one thing that I
That's
missed
crazy.
that you weren't here was and I mean this in no weird way. I feel like you're very in touch with your feminine side. I seriously don't mean this as a diss.
Okay.
I seriously don't mean that, because why would it be disrespectful? But I feel like our show is very like, we're very open and very try to be a safe space for women, especially because we have my favorite women on the show.
Over your mom?
Damn.
Whoa, okay.
Pick right now,
Bro,
your sister or your mom.
Why are you?
You have one life preserver.
No,
your sister and your mom are drowning.
I can't.
Pick it now, immediately.
Even my girlfriend's gonna get mad.
Oh yeah. Okay. Now there's 3. It's your girlfriend, your sister, and your mom.
I can't.
Save one. I'm just kidding.
Bro, why would you do this to me? Now I'm scared.
Now he's gonna cry.
Delete this, please. Delete
I
this.
thought you had thick skin. Nah, I'm just kidding.
What about you, Brandon?
What?
Your little sister, your mom.
Well, okay. My mom can swim. So can my sister.
Dang.
My girlfriend
What
can't
the
swim.
fuck?
So I throw my girlfriend the life preserver, and then my mom can swim. She used to swim a lot. She taught me how to swim, so I'd be like, she's good, and then I'd probably go get my sister.
Damn.
I feel like, oh my god, thinking of my girl Julie and my mom, I feel like, damn, they just might all drown.
Can you swim?
Yeah.
Oh, you can swim.
I can float. Yeah.
But I feel like you guys have just panicked for some reason.
I feel like I can swim, but I feel like if I was ever in the ocean, I would suddenly forget. Because I don't know, something about that like situation of being in really deep water just really scares me. So I feel like if I was ever in that situation,
you guys scare me so much about the ocean that like I generally would freak out if I'm
terrified of the ocean.
I've jumped off a boat into the middle of the ocean, and I did basically forget how to swim. Well, what's weird is I've talked to you about this story before, but I've never talked about it on the podcast. One of the things that scared me the most of when I jumped into the ocean is I thought that I'd be able to see through my eyelids, even though they were closed, kind of like a pool. You know how you could still, even though your eyes are closed, you could see the light.
Oh,
yeah.
But it was too dark.
When I jumped in, it was immediately pitch black.
Gotcha.
Like just pitch black. So it felt like I was just floating in this space of just darkness. And that alone put a lot of fear into me, and I did kind of start panicking, especially as I started swimming up, and I realized that I don't know what it is about the ocean, but when you jump off a boat, you sink very deep in. So when I started swimming up, it took a couple of seconds longer than I thought to reach the surface, and that just made me panic more. And so I finally got up there, and as soon as I got up, it wasn't like I was like floating like chest up, like nipples up. You know what I mean? Like,
it was like you were like this.
Yeah, it really was. So I was like panicking and looking for the boat, and then finally I got it, and I pulled myself up. But because the water is so like, what's the word? You know how you can rate the water stickiness? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, surface tension?
Viscosity. I think viscosity.
Oh, surface tension.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And the viscosity of the ocean was like super strong. So even though I grabbed the boat, it was so strong that I couldn't pull myself up, and I had to rest for a little bit. And then my friends were like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, and I was kind of embarrassed. Well, I was first thing, my nerves were off the fucking chain. I was super nervous because it was ice cold.
Right.
I'm yapping, bro, but I couldn't fucking lift myself up, so I had to rest and then use all my strength to get up. And I was like, I'm never gonna do that again. It's so bad. It's so bad.
I feel like the what scares me a lot about the ocean, or like just being in super deep water, is I just don't like how open it is. I feel like it makes me feel like not grounded. Like something about like having like a wall or like a ground, just like, okay, like there's one plane that like I have security, but like in the ocean, everywhere around me is completely open, and that kind of freaks me out because it's like, where do I go? I can't like shell up.
Yeah. When I was in the ocean, I thought about like, what if there's just a giant fucking sea monster under me right now in the middle of this pitch black space. But anyways, how are you guys doing? Happy New Year.
I was like, y'all for real scare me.
You scare me.
Y'all scare me all the time.
What?
I'm like, damn, never going in the ocean.
That makes sense.
Okay, I'll save you first, I guess.
Wow.
Well, actually, I don't know if my girl or my mom is scared of the ocean too.
Can
I like sacrifice myself?
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Okay. They all live and I die?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's
take
good with
me,
me.
Good choice.
Take
good
me
choice.
instead.
Take me, literally.
That's a good choice.
God, take me instead, please. I can't make this choice.
Damn.
That relates to my topic. Nah, just can't.
Tease, a little tease,
Yeah.
little edge, a little goon sesh.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder if our audience understands that.
I don't think they do.
What?
Do you know what gooning is?
No. Not on this show.
Not to go down that road.
No. That's Patreon.
Never
content.
mind then. Julie,
Yeah.
We'll talk about it on the Patreon.
Yeah.
You guys click the link if you guys want to know what Stevie's talking about.
Join our Patreon. Our Patreon's actually good.
That's a good tease. That's a good tease.
We put a lot of effort into our Patreon.
We're gonna talk about gooning, so you better subscribe to that Patreon.
We're also slowly vlogging on there.
Yeah, we're vlogging.
Oh, yeah, we added 2 vlogs, which are pretty funny.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I thought they were funny. I was rewatching them and I was laughing my ass off.
Baking while baked. Perfect name too.
Thank you.
Baking while baked.
So click that link.
Anyways, Julie, go ahead. Start us off.
So I was gonna start off with menstrual cycles.
Woo.
Do you guys have them? Not sure.
No, but I get tummy aches.
You get tummy.
I'm just kidding.
Damn.
That was a joke, ladies. I'm just
Sometimes
kidding.
when it's like leg day at the gym and my shorts are really tight, like on my area, I feel like I can imagine.
Oh, you guys can relate.
Yeah.
Sure.
okay.
We're just kidding. I promise you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Please don't come
We're just
close.
kidding.
They
I'm
are
sorry.
kidding, okay, and like I'm laughing, so
I already know someone's listening. I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing.
It's
I'm
not
not
funny. That's not.
But yeah, I want to talk about them because I'm kind of going through it. I'm on day 3, and yesterday was an awful day for me. I was legit in bed the whole entire day because I had the day off, and I legit was in bed, and I was just like, I'm in pain. I was in pain, but usually before I get my period, I always get cramps, and there was this one cramp that I got when I went to bed, and I legit couldn't breathe at one point.
Yeah.
Because I was so much in pain. Because I legit was just sleeping on my side, and then I just felt like this big like cramp, and then I felt like I just couldn't breathe because of the pain. Sometimes I get like sometimes my cramps. I think yesterday it happened where like I get a cramp and I feel like I'm getting a headache at the same time, and I'm like, damn.
You know what I think about is that when I was a kid, I feel like I was so oblivious to like women's periods. Because now that I'm adult, I hear stories like that all the time, and I'm like, damn, like it seems to affect obviously your. I'm sorry, it seems to affect your life.
Question.
Mm.
Are period cramps like is it the same in the sense of like when you get a leg cramp? Is it like the same type of cramp, or is it like a different? Is it a different feeling? Like that's because I'm like when I get a leg cramp, is it just like imagine that here, or is it completely different?
I feel like maybe it would be the same thing because I have gotten leg cramps before.
Yeah.
I think it is the same thing, but there's just something about like
The area.
in the area where it feels more like inner.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I get a leg cramp, it feels very like outer for some reason, like an outer, like it's like more like in the outer layer of like my body.
Yeah.
And then for like a period cramp, I feel like it's more like something inner that's like going on. So it's like the pain is there, like it's kind of in the same thing because they're cramps.
Yeah.
But I feel like it feels very different because like how I said, I get leg cramps. I've gotten them before, but like I feel that like I mean I've been able to survive more leg cramp than like a period cramp where I'm just aching so much, but I feel like it's kind of there.
Interesting.
But but it does, at least for me when I've experienced it, it does feel different in a way.
Do you ever wish men had periods?
I don't think I really wish anyone had a period because I'm kind of like I don't think they're really great. At least in my experience, they've never been like fun. It's never been fun to be on your period. So I'm kind of like, I feel like maybe in a way I guess I just want men to be like understanding of it. You know, like I feel like I want people to, or like specifically men to understand like what women kind of go through with their bodies. Because like I legit yesterday I felt so fatigued. Like I just didn't want to get out of bed. And like what happens is, this was happening to me yesterday, especially when like there's heavy days and then there's light days, right? So the heavy days is like when you're really bleeding a lot. And for me, like these first few days have been like that. And so what I hate the most, the feeling that I hate the most is when I get up and I just feel it like come out. Like it feels like it just automatically just comes out. At least that's for me. And I think that's mostly coming from like being like in my heavy days. So when I'm laying down, I don't feel it as much, but I do sometimes. And I feel like it's like the most like discomfort that I feel. So I'm more like, I wish like people would just be like understanding of what we go through of like our bodies, but I wouldn't wish I wouldn't wish it on men. I feel like the only thing that maybe like for men would be like, I feel like things would be different for sure of like even products of like how accessible they are. Because I did learn that there used to be like the pink tax. I don't know if you guys ever heard about that.
No,
Does
what
that
is
still not exist?
I think it's still it's still a thing.
Yeah.
So like the pink tax is just that they tax extra for like a lot of like like hygiene like stuff for women. So they just add like an extra tax to
isn't
stuff.
it? I think it's that. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like, let's say there's two identical products, like it's a men's soap and a women's soap, and they're exactly the same. The women's will be more expensive.
Really?
Because so that's what they call the pink tax. It's not like a physical tax, right? It's not like
it's
like
not
Target
like
will be like, you know, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I never really
They were just
understood.
like, fuck women?
Yeah.
the
I mean,
fuck?
that's how it feels like.
For sure, I imagine that's
I
what
know.
it feels like.
I know they were talking about that they were trying to like kind of like ban it, kind of thing.
Just
Like
have like
just like
limitations.
yeah,
on what they
like
could be.
limitations to it. But I think there's still a couple states that still do it.
What do you think as a woman, what do you think the reasoning behind it is, or why they kind of do that kind of thing?
I don't know. I feel like because it's in very high demand. Because like I feel like I mean a lot of women need it and use it, and like especially like for me, I always buy 2 boxes, like because I usually can sometimes go through like half a box or like 1 box, just because sometimes I have like really really heavy like days where like 1 pad like so to put in perspective, like a pad is technically on the label it says it should last you maybe like 6 hours. It only will last me like an hour if I'm like on my heavy days, because like it's like a pad and it has like an absorbing thing and it absorbs, and then there's like 1 layer and then there's another layer. Sometimes all that like gets filled up, so then I have to change it, and like sometimes I have to like throughout the day I probably have to use like 8 sometimes. So it just depends. And I think that's why the tax is up, because a lot of people just need them, and like it's in higher demand because like everyone needs one.
Oh,
like,
so you think it's more them taking advantage of the fact that it's a necessity? So they're like, charge them whatever you want because they can't live without it.
Yeah.
I have more period questions, and this is not me making a joke. I generally have more questions. So, how accurate is it like to track a period? Like, can you actually know like the exact day that it's gonna happen?
You can. I think I think between your periods, I honestly don't know that much because like I'm also irregular, so like sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But I think like the average of like tracking it, I think in between your periods is probably I think from 24 to 35 days in between it. So like that's how the length is. And then after that, that's when your next like cycle begins. So you can track it, and now there's like apps and stuff. So I use an app. Just because again, like since I'm irregular, I don't like, and sometimes also because when I go to my checkups, they always ask me like when is the last time you had your period, and so I have to tell my doctor, and I would always forget, like I wouldn't remember, so I kept track of it. I'm very irregular, so like in the app, it's always telling me like you're like 40 days, like you haven't gotten your period in 40 days.
Is your boyfriend always like, goop?
Sometimes well that was more like, now it's kind of like been like I get it at least like in like once a month, but there was a time when I didn't get it for like 3 months, and it just like it's just like I'm just really irregular, like I know it's like bad for my body, but I also don't want to get on birth control like to regulate it, because I think I'm lacking probably like I want to say like estrogen or something. There's something that I'm lacking, which makes my like period be irregular. So that's why like I used to not get it as often. So then my doctor was like, if you want, you could get on birth control so that like you can like regulate it, and then you'll be on it for like 6 months, and then your period probably will be like come back or whatever. But I liked not having my period for like a couple months, because again, like I never have a good time with it. But yeah, so that's how you can track it. And now there's apps.
Yeah.
So I know and what was crazy was when Roe v. Wade happened.
I was gonna say, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah. So when Roe v. Wade happened, I think I got either an email or on the app they notified me that they wouldn't share like my information about anything, because a lot of the apps are more meant to, and at least the one that I use, it's more meant for you to kind of track if you eventually want to get pregnant. So you track it because it tells you like, this week, you're more likely to get pregnant. Yeah. And then it'll tell you specifically what day you're ovulating. So which is like the highest day for you like to get pregnant, right? So it tracks all of that for you on there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you heard about this, but I read about it that a bunch of apps did make a lot of women worried, because apparently with Roe v. Wade being overturned, there was this serious concern that the government was going to be able to have access to those period apps, and therefore be able to see if a woman was pregnant, and if she didn't bring the pregnancy to term, that she would be breaking the law by having an abortion.
But that wasn't if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't a concern. That was something they actually wanted. No, I thought that politicians actually proposed that. I thought that was like a real thing. No.
What's the concern, I guess, right?
No, yeah, I just meant more like it's like
it's not like a paranoid.
It's not like an imaginary thing. I meant it's more like it was a practical.
No, yeah,
like,
it's very real. Yeah. It's very real. It's very scary too. I was gonna ask you, Julie, do you feel like when you had your first period, do you feel like it was handled the right way? And I'll bring up a story as to why, but go ahead. Do
you mean like, what do you mean?
Okay,
like,
so
like, did I freak out?
Yeah, well, I mean, like whoever was around you, whoever like educated you on periods, whoever like just treated the act of having a period do you feel like it was handled in the correct way? And the reason why I bring it up, maybe this will help you kind of think about it, is I was reading Jeanette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, and she talks about in the book that the first time that she had her period, that her mom came up to her and was like I was about to say mija, as if like she was like, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like and basically she just started like acting as if like a pet had died, like as if something had died in her life, and she was consoling her for losing that loved one. And she talked about how it was because her mom had always wanted her to stay as a kid, and she dreaded her ever growing up. And so having a period obviously meant that she was
no longer a kid.
Yeah, that she was becoming a woman. So her mom like was the first person when she found out. She was like, I'm so sorry, like consoling her. And so obviously that implemented something in her mind where she felt like to be a woman is to be something bad.
Yeah.
And then she had it on set. I don't know what she was shooting, but she had it on set. And I think the set designer saw, because she had it, and then she was the one who like gave her a pat and was like, congrats, like welcome to being a woman. And she said like that was such like a what's the word, like whiplash, because her mom had just been like, this is like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
And then the set designer was like, congrats, like basically like making like a whole thing about it. That's what I mean by like, do you feel like yours was handled correctly, and how would you handle it, for example, a daughter or somebody who you feel like is younger than you and just had their first period?
I feel like it was, well, I didn't like freak out, but I did kind of like, I don't know if the word was sad, but something did happen where like I got a little worried. But what was funny was, well, I got it when I was probably like 15. Or yeah, I think I was 15. And then what was funny was that I had gone to like my checkup or something, and my mom always used to go to like my doctors with me, because she would be the one to like talk to my doctor. And my doctor asked me if I had gotten my period, and I had no idea what periods were, like at all. Like I had never really like heard about it. For some reason, I always did coordinate period to pregnancy. And so when she's like, oh, have you gotten your period? I thought she was like, oh, have you gotten pregnant for some reason? And I was like, no. And then my mom, and then I was just like, what? Why would you ask me that? Like, I'm 15. I've never gotten pregnant. Like, and then I was just like, what? And then when my mom heard that, because I think that was like around the first time where we had heard it. And then my mom was like, oh, I'm going to talk to you about it later. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, what do you mean? And then I think we were at the mall, or we were at home, and she was like, oh, like, she's like, there's a time where like you just start bleeding. And she's like, it's like really normal. It's just like your body's just going through stuff. So she like explained it to me, right? And I was like, okay. And then it happened in Mexico. So I think it was also Abuelita's birthday. and I remember I went to the restroom, and I remember my underwear was really dark, but like I could tell that there was like a stain on it, and I didn't know what it was, and I was so confused. I was like, why is it like that? Like it just looked really dark. Um and then it kind of just eventually just clicked that it was my period. And then I was like, okay, like, and so then I went up to my mom, and I almost started crying when I went up to her. And I was like, oh, like, I think I got my period. And cause I'm like, I think I'm bleeding. And she's like, okay. She's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I just like, I just didn't know what to do. And then she was like, okay, we'll go home. And it was Abuelita's birthday too. So we were all there to like celebrate her birthday, but we ended up leaving early. And then my mom gave me a pad, and she like taught me how to basically like put it on. And then I just remember it was just like that first part, I was just freaked out. I think I was just more like freaked out about it, but she was just like, oh, here, like just wear this. After that, nothing, it was just really like normal. Like it wasn't like super like crazy. It wasn't like heavy or anything. It was really light for me. So I feel like in that situation, it was like, it was weirdly enough, like kind of natural in a way where I was just like, okay, like my mom had told me about it. Like I was completely fine with it. And I guess like for me, I guess eventually when I have a daughter, I think I'd probably just teach her about it and like talk to her about it. Um, I don't know if like, I don't know at what age, because a lot of girls do get it early as to like 10 or 11. I know one of my cousins got it when she was like 10. So I was kind of like, I feel like at a certain point, but I feel like I would just go off the way my mom did it.
Yeah.
Where she just kind of told me it's just a thing that, you know, you go through.
Yeah. I was like, you wouldn't put a spin on it, like congrats on being a woman or like stuff like that?
No, I don't know. I feel like
Is there
I wasn't
something
really,
wrong
I feel
with
like
that?
for me, I wasn't really like missing that. Like again, because I feel like my mom wasn't like, oh, congrats, or kind of like, at least I don't remember. But I feel like if she is freaked out about it, maybe I would say something in those terms where I'm like, oh, it's just you, like your body just kind of going through it. But it's just weird to kind of hear that, especially if you're 10, to be like, oh, you're a woman now, and but they're still like a kid, you know? Because I feel like, again, I think since women get it at different times in their life, that I feel like it's just weird to kind of say that. Because then I feel like for some girls, they might think that there's like a certain responsibility now for it because you're being quoted as a woman, or you being put that you're a woman now, right?
True.
But I feel like it's just the thing that our bodies kind of just go through, you know?
Yeah, it's true, because I didn't think of that either. Is that I guess that implies like to have a period is to become a woman, but more often than not, these are still children. So it feels kind of weird to, I guess, give them that label, because it feels like it does offer some excuse to see them as something that they're not, which can be very dangerous, because obviously their minds aren't there, their experience isn't there. And so to kind of give them that responsibility of like you're becoming a woman or like you are a woman might be a little too much. It'd be more, at least in my mind, I don't know, well, I'm not a woman, but I guess like maybe one day I could be a father, and I would think like, no, like children can have periods, like then that doesn't change like who or like what they are. Like I know one day she will be a woman, but just because she had her period doesn't mean you got to treat her like she's this grown adult. Like that seems a little irresponsible, I guess.
Yeah.
So I get that point.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm like, I feel like I wasn't missing that because I still felt like I was a kid, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't know. It gives it it's like a weird label to kind of just say that because you got your period. Like, I think maybe, I don't know. I keep thinking of maybe like past times because eventually now you can like get pregnant and have a family. And that's why they're like, oh, you're a woman now kind of thing. But I'm also like, to put it in perspective of like people who get it when they're younger, I'm kind of like, I don't know. That just sounds weird to like kind of hear that.
Well, what you said is like, because in the past, obviously, I think society saw women as women very young, despite what we know now as like even mid-20-year-olds, subjectively, a lot of people still feel like they're kids. And so I think as society advances, our perception of like what is adult, what is maturity changes. And we've come to realize that it actually takes a while to, I feel like, we learned that your brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25. So I imagine that anybody who's before 25, you could argue is still in a weird way mentally a child. and to tell these like 12-year-olds like, oh, like you're a woman now. It seems like there's something wrong with it, because I can't help but think that's just a societal thing and not a natural thing.
Yeah. I feel like you can, I don't know. I'm not a person who menstruates, and I feel a little awkward giving my take, because I don't want to be like,
yeah, for sure.
as a man, like, here's what you know what I mean? I don't know. But I get what you mean. It feels like, I don't know, there's something kind of creepy about it. Something kind of feels a little weird about being like, oh, you're a woman now. You know? It kind of feels like it has a weird origin to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think just society like has, like you said, put a lot of like arbitrary benchmarks on what makes someone an adult.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reality of it is that most people, like, it's like everything. It's like a spectrum. It's like some people are really mature by this certain age. Some people are really mature by that. You know, like by the time they're 30, I think people are just extremely complex.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever like a uniform, like, oh, you're this age, or you've done this physiologically, so that means you're 100% like a person. I think people are just a million times more complicated than that. But yeah.
Yeah, because I just feel like giving like that idea that you are an adult excuses certain behavior towards you. And that's where I find that it is creepy, because it's like you tell these little girls that they're basically like a woman now. And not saying that this happens that often or saying that this is what everybody does, but I can see in the past that was definitely used as an excuse to be like, well, you're a woman now, and therefore my relationship with you, if you're like this creepy dude, is the same as somebody who's like 25, you know, but obviously that's not true.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about. But like I said, I like what Brandon said. I do not menstruate, so take my take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I apologize if I said anything that's wrong.
It was cool. I'm
Thank
not
you.
saying you guys said
Julie gave
anything
us the
bad.
pass, bro.
I guess.
I don't speak for all women. No shit. But yeah, I guess it's also cool because I feel like, at least for me, like to talk about it, because I always felt like, at least around men, I always felt very uncomfortable talking about it, because I felt like some men might be a little like,
Oh, the big ew, period.
like
That's
blood
really-
or like squeamish,
That's
whatever.
really immature.
You know?
That's really immature. I feel like, again, I don't speak for all men, but I feel like a lot of men are really unhygienic. And so for them to even like at all kind of throw that as like a diss of like, that's unhygienic, is like, look who's talking, bro. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's really weird.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't think it's unhygienic. I feel like it's literally just natural. Like, what can you, like, it just happens. Dude.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
It seems immature to have like that kind of reaction to it.
I don't even think. Well, it is
Like,
immature.
what would your mother think of you? You know? Come on.
Yeah. I don't even think it's immature. To me, it's a lack of respect and empathy towards another human. And I know that's like the traditional, like, oh, it's not a social concern, it's a humanitarian concern. But to me, the reason I see it that way is because I think that growing up around some men, I feel like they don't offer women the same respect they would offer a man. Like, in the sense of like, ew, like a woman, like if somebody was like, ew, periods are weird, like that's gross, like I don't want to talk about that. To me, it feels as though you're seeing them as not this person who has a very natural like cycle that's going on. You're seeing them more as this thing that you've put on a pedestal in your brain, as to like women are supposed to be pretty and smart and perfect. And yeah, maybe you don't see it so consciously, but I feel like subconsciously that's why you feel disgusted, because you don't offer them the fact that they're humans. You know, everybody poops, everybody.
They treat women as more of like a concept, like a thing that has to meet their standards instead of like a real person, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's just like one of many things. I don't even think it's periods alone. It goes for like body count and farts and stuff.
Yeah. Well, because at least for me, in my experience, I feel like what was really weird in a way was the fact that, like, I mean, I grew up with you and like Valentin, and I grew up mostly like around men, where it was like I didn't really talk about it as much, because I don't know where I got it from, but I felt like maybe it was my older brother. I can't really remember, but I just felt like there was just like this thing of like I couldn't talk about it because you guys would get in this like uncomfortable space. And I think for me, I wasn't that comfortable to talk about it. That's why for me for a while, I feel like I never even mentioned it to you for like a while until like super recently, where I started like talking about it even more. And like I even talk about it to like my boyfriend, but that's mostly because like I just be going through it sometimes where I'm just like, bro, I just feel sad today. Like I'm just like, because there's times when like I don't even have it and it's leading up to it where I just feel sad. Where I'm like, bro, I just feel sad today. I'm like, I think I'm gonna get my period in like 3 days.
I've seen the memes where it's like when you've been crying all day and then you get you get your period at night and you knew that you weren't a bitch. It was like I knew I wasn't like this.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen those before, and I'm like, bro, that's me. I was like, I knew it. I knew my ass was like.
I've seen memes that are like, I hate crying on my period because it doesn't reflect who I actually am. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? It had to do with more of the like men relationship towards talking about periods. I remember now. I see that and sometimes how you and me, like we talk about like our relationships, and sometimes we don't get into nasty details, but we talk about sex. And I've met a lot of friends over the years, and they're like, I can't believe you can talk to your sister, not like bagging me, like don't talk to your sister about that. But I'm like, I can't believe you guys can just talk about that. I feel like I wouldn't be able to. And I always, that's why I make that connection of like, I think it is a humanitarian thing. It's like, bro, my sister's human. She has the same desires, feelings, urges as I do. And so to pretend that those don't exist, to me, doesn't offer her just human respect. So to me, that's like, if you're an individual who makes that conversation makes you uncomfortable, I think it's important to ask yourself why. And if you maybe carry some type of like inner turmoil against that specific gender, because I think that's where it all comes from. To me, it is a humanitarian thing. But yeah, Julie, thank you for bringing up this combo.
Very cool.
You know, comfort your girls. If they're on their period, give them some sweets.
Yeah,
give them love.
Do better.
Do better.
Yeah. And you know what? And women start doing it back. If some guy's like, ew, you're talking about your periods, be like, you don't fucking wash your ass. Like,
look at your nails, nasty ass.
Yeah, because you keep. Okay, but I work with cars.
I keep my nails spick and span.
I work with cars. It's hard. I try my best.
Ew.
But Brandon's right. Men are fucking gross. I mean, I love my men. Wait, whoa. Pause. Pause.
Whoa.
Audio clip. Make that real.
No. I mean, like, I love my fellow brethren. You know, I love my gender.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a controversial
I don't know.
thing.
I feel like that's weird. I mean, I've been in a class. I've been to college, and there's been like a handful of dudes where I'm like, you're literally not wearing deodorant.
You're
like,
stinking up the class.
You're stinking. Remember, there's this
Yeah,
one
I know
guy
what
who
you're talking
fucking
about.
never wore deodorant, and it's like, bro, we can fucking. Everybody in the room knows. You know.
I knew
feel like
that's what you were talking about.
I feel like that's really. I don't know. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, so I find that being unhygienic really disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So throw it back at your man, ladies.
Yeah, throw it back at your man. Be like, you fucking don't wash your ass and you stink all the time, and you're gonna be over here shaming me about my period? Fuck no. Yeah, you're gonna fucking not shower for 3 weeks, play ball, and go to the gym, and then come back smelling like a fucking Sasquatch, and you're gonna be like, ew, period. Something that happens naturally. Get the fuck out of my face. Literally like that.
Anyways,
because periods are natural. Stinking is not natural.
well, technically
naturally.
it is, but you have control over that. I think.
Yeah,
you know? That's the
true.
point. Right?
And women control their periods too. It's not like they're like, no, I'm not gonna make a joke. I'm gonna be sensitive about this, but I'm just like, they do their best, man. It happens naturally.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
Next topic.
Next topic.
So have you guys heard of method acting?
Yes.
Of course.
Can you guys explain what method acting is?
Tryhards. Basically,
Tryhards.
Well,
an actor thinks he's too cool to do his job.
I don't know the textbook definition, but it's basically like just diving in or becoming the character that you're portraying. I remember in drama, well, once upon a time I wanted to be an actor, and I remember, I think it's Marlon Brando, who The Godfather, you know who that is, right? He popularized it because I think something at the time the acting was very different. So when he did it, everybody was like, "What? Oh my god, game changer!" But yeah, it's basically just that. I think
go.
Yeah, I think it's just the like rough definition is just living the character that you want to portray.
Do you guys think method acting is dangerous?
I think
to an extent, I think it is.
I think it's one of those things. Like, I think a lot of people try to use, it's art.
Exactly.
Not even just acting, art in general, to excuse really bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you can have art with ethics, you know? I feel like people try to make art this super like, like anything can go there because it's art. What I personally disagree. Like, I feel like the one I think about a lot is Jared Leto when he became like the Joker, and people said he would send like used condoms to his like fellow actors. I'm like, I don't. Yes, the Joker is iconic. Like, that helps you get it. I don't know.
His used condom bit.
Yeah, when in that comic, you know, when he threw a used condom at Batman. Yeah, sure. That makes a lot of sense. You know, so I feel like that.
My method acting, I'm a method act. You know what? I decided right now. My method acting is a terrible fucking person. I'm gonna
be a terrible fucking person.
Yeah. And I'm gonna excuse myself with I'm method acting, guys.
Yeah. So I just feel like there's a limit, and I feel like people. I don't know. I'm not an actor, and I'm sure a lot of people would be like fucking poser or some shit like that. But I feel like there's definitely a limit, and I feel like. Most of these people are grown enough and mature enough to understand those limits.
I've heard some actors they'll think that method acting is really cringy.
Yeah.
There was the guy who played Biff from Back to the Future. He famously before what's it called Michael J. Fox, before they gave him the role of Marty, someone else had it. What was his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
What's his name? They mentioned in the Flash movie. Did they say his name? But whatever. There was a different actor in the role of Marty McFly. And he was method acting Marty McFly.
Yeah.
So if you weren't talking to him on the set as Marty, he wouldn't respond. And there's this famous scene in Back to the Future where he's fighting Biff in the lunchroom, and he's like about to punch him, right? And so they're recording the scene, and he keeps pushing up against his collarbone, and he's doing it really, really hard. And the actor playing Biff, he's not a method actor. He's just acting. Yeah. And he's like, hey, Marty. I was like, you're really like pushing up on my collarbone, man. Like, you're gonna break my collarbone, like, and we're not gonna be able to shoot. And he basically just kind of like lightly tells him like if he doesn't back up, he's gonna like fight him for reals. And he's like, for sure. And then they action immediately does it again. And he was just talking about how like he thought it was so pretentious because he could hide behind that wall of like, oh, he's method acting.
Well, because I think a lot of people find that, like not even just cringy, but just like, I don't know.
Difficult to work with, I assume.
I think, don't quote me because I could be very wrong, but Meryl Streep talks about this, that Dustin Hoffman did that to her. You know who Dustin Hoffman is, right?
Give me his character.
He's in The Graduate. He's the guy who plays The Graduate.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know who he is.
Do you know who he is? He plays Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, I was trying to sound like his true filmography. But in reality,
I know, right? Like, you say The Graduate, which is from the 60s, and then you're like Kung Fu Panda.
Everyone's like, you know? Okay. You know who Meryl Streep is, though, right?
Yeah.
I think they did a movie together, and he smacks the dog shit out of her. And it was for real. Damn. And she was like, that was kind of like not cool. But I think he gets a lot of that where he would do a bunch of stuff like that. Because I think that's something really weird where, like you said, where an actor puts hands on you. Because I think I also saw Snoop Dogg talk about that. I forgot the actor, but it was like a comedy movie. And the actor actually like slapped Snoop Dogg and he was like, you're really lucky. Like I'm cool with you. Because I feel like that's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I don't really buy that that's something you needed to do to perform. Like, I feel like if you're an actor, you should be able to pretend to do. That's literally the name.
Yeah.
You know, you're acting. You're not really doing that shit.
Like Jim Carrey famously did that on Man on the Moon when he played the comedian.
Andy Kaufman?
Yeah. He famously did that. Have you heard of that? Where people said like he transformed.
There's a documentary. Didn't they make a documentary?
They made a documentary about it. But I don't know. See, in those cases, I'm like, I feel like you went. The only person I feel like might have done it tastefully is like Heath Ledger. Because I feel like people were just like, he was just kind of like weird on set, but afterwards he was cool. You know? I feel like I don't know. And I also feel like there's this weird, like, I don't know if this is an accurate observation, but I feel like there's like this like weird competition between actors where I feel like you hear this story about like, oh, they did this. And then it seems like another actor will be like trying to outdo that. And I see that a lot with the Joker character. And I think obviously Heath Ledger started that. Yeah. And ever since then, every actor who takes on the Joker, it seems like they're trying to outdo him by doing even crazier antics. And I'm like, I feel like at a certain point, I'm like, this doesn't even seem like it's for the role. It seems like you're just trying to like seem cool. Or I don't know, whatever it is. But
yeah, I get what you mean. It's a better way of saying that, like, to seem cool. is that competitive nature is I want to make sure that
I'm the better actor.
Yeah, when people talk of the stories of people who play Joker, they got to bring up me first because of the crazy shit I did on the set.
Yeah.
And to me, it's more about pride than it is
about the art form.
Yeah. Pride and ego.
Yeah. I see that. Well, because the only reason I brought it up is because, you know, you always hear kind of like Heath Ledger or like other people who kind of play like dark people, like very like sociopaths and all that. And like you hear about like the actors kind of like
the extent to which they go.
Yeah, like sometimes they even start having like dark thoughts or like these like dark feelings. And to me, it always felt like, in a way, it's like dangerous, you know, like at least to the person and like their more like their mental, I guess, health in a way. Well, I mean, you always hear like this stuff of like Heath Ledger, right, where he like got so into it, where and like some people fall into like, I guess, alcoholism or whatever, or they get addicted to drugs and stuff like that. And to me, I was just like, it's just interesting how like actors kind of get into that of like method acting. Yeah. But like I also was like, but I feel like you should get to it into a certain extent because you're just acting, you know, like there's certain parts where like, especially like not being difficult on the set of like, oh, you're so into your character that you kind of just forget everything else. But it's like, how do you kind of forget that area, you know, that you're acting? Like, how do you kind of like lose yourself so much in it? Yeah. So I was just like trying to have like more understanding of it and like why people kind of do it.
I genuinely think it's cool if it's just you. Like if you can keep it to you, like if that's really what helps you. But I really feel like you should draw the line if it's affecting other people. Like if you're hitting people or like making them uncomfortable or crossing a lot of boundaries, I feel like it should be very common sense that that's not okay. But I really dislike that they hide behind that like coward line of, oh, it's art. Like I'm just pretending like it's an act. It's like, well, yeah, but like you're genuinely affecting me though, you know?
Like it's excusing a lot of like,
I think it for sure excuses a lot of bad behavior, you know?
Yeah. What gets me is that how you said it was popularized by Marlon Brando. And if you don't know who Marlon Brando is, he's obviously he's an iconic actor, but he was also like the biggest fucking like little shit on set. Like he was so hard to work with. There's so many horror stories of how he'd be in a scene and he would ask for it to be rewritten, and he would be like, I'll only do the scene if I'm able to wear like a top hat. I'll only do the scene if like I can bring on like my pet turtle. I'm not even fucking with you.
For like Apocalypse Now. I don't know if you've heard about that movie.
It sounds familiar.
It's most people, even if they haven't seen it, they'll have seen references to it. It's a pretty popular movie. His character in that movie, I've seen like the director Francis Ford Coppola. He talks about how like his character was supposed to be like skeletal, like a very like skeletal man, and Marlon Brando showed up like 150 pounds, like overweight, and he was like, I don't know, like who cares? And that he didn't read the book. Even though there was a book, and he's like, I don't know, I think this is cool. Or like he wouldn't learn his lines.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he'd make them like write it for him because he was like, oh, it makes me a better actor because it's spontaneous, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's why I'm kind of like,
yeah. And he would improvise a lot. Like since he didn't like rehearsing or memorizing his lines, he would just improvise like how he felt in the moment. But sometimes he would say shit that like doesn't make sense in the plot of the story. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get a burger, and it's like 1760. You know? Sure. Dead ass. He was like a super hard worker. I mean, a super person to work with. Super hard person to work with. I don't know what the fuck. So to me, like that in itself, like obviously, if such a dude who was such a piece of shit in the set, I don't know if he was a piece of shit out of the set. I don't think he was. I think he was.
I think he actually might have been.
Oh, he was.
Like, he's a pretty controversial character.
He is.
He's a very controversial guy.
I watched a whole documentary about like all the controversial shit that he's done. I mean, just like on set, never outside. I know that one. I'm telling you, there was a movie that he did in the like latter years of his career where he was because he had fallen down the ladder so much, he was getting first-time directors, and they were scared to say anything to him, so he would take advantage of it, and he's like, I want to wear a top hat. There's this one movie where he wears this white top hat, and he's like, I'm on my contract, I want it that I can never take it off, and in every scene, I want to be sitting down. That's why by the end of his life, he got really, really fat Did you ever see it?
Well, I know that he gained a lot of weight.
Yeah, there's a movie where he had wrote. I think that he never wants to stand up in the movie. Yeah, so they had to, which is hard because then they had to write around that.
Yeah.
They had to get scenes in the movie where it made sense for his character to be sitting. So he'd be like on a horse.
Yeah.
No way.
People say that it's because he was also a joker. Like he liked pulling pranks. So
he thought that shit was just funny.
Yeah, he would make that and be like, "Oh, like if I don't do this, like I'm not gonna do the movie." But really, he knew it was terrible, and he just thought it was funny. He wanted to see how far.
But people would still hire him.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like he was very difficult, but it's like people consider him really good for a reason. Like when he locked in, he actually was pretty good. And he kind of, you know, true. So like, cause he's got a lot of iconic roles, like The Godfather and what's that movie? A Streetcar Named Desire. A lot of older movies. Apocalypse Now. You know,
he did a lot of old school like westerns too.
Yeah.
Which he hated.
He's also in the Zapata movie where he plays Emiliano Zapata.
Oh yeah, he plays Emiliano Zapata.
Pretty offensive, but
it's crazy too because he talked about it in an interview where he said he hated being in westerns. He said he thought it was the bottom of the barrel. He said that he wished he was literally dead. That there was a scene where he falls in water and he purposely held himself like underwater for like 2 minutes. And the directors were like, "Yo, like, is he dead?" and then they moved him out of the water, and he pretended to like have been unconscious, and he was there for 15 minutes pretending to be unconscious. They were like, "This guy's like awake. He's not like drowned or like knocked out." So he would pull a lot of pranks like that, and I'm like, funny. This is who everybody's gonna like model after and be like, "You see, method acting." Yeah, like I don't think so.
So you guys think method acting is not at the top? Like you're a good actor.
I feel like I don't know necessarily that it sways you either way, but I feel like a lot of people have this association that like it's a guarantee amazing acting technique. I feel like it's like anything, like it can be like, but it also cannot be, you know? I don't know. It's just everything. It's just different for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
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 Interesting. I learned a lot. I was like, whoa. I did not know. I didn't know in that perspective of like people are just douchebags.
Yeah, I think most method actors are just fucking douchebags.
Yeah. It's just an excuse to not have to like, I guess, ever actually show yourself. It's like a shield.
Yeah, I also just think it's crazy how demanding he was about like certain
Marlon
things.
Brando?
About like how like there's actors or actresses that kind of do that where they're just very demanding like on set and stuff.
Bro, I'll show you more after the show. It's crazy the shit that he would do. It's so crazy. Yeah. But do you have anything else, Julie?
I have one more. Last one. What do you guys do when you guys can't sleep?
Just not sleep.
I listen to ASMR and it makes me fall asleep.
Really?
Yeah, ASMR really helps. What else do I do when I can't sleep? I close my eyes and I try to imagine a very intricate story. Mm-hmm. And eventually, because I'm so invested in the story, I just like gracefully fall asleep. But I will say that for me, it's very easy to fall asleep, but it's because I'm a light sleeper. So I know at any second it'll just wake me back up. So I've had to learn to fall back asleep. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm different in that sense. Oh, I'm built different. No, but I'm a light sleeper. So I've had to teach myself to fall asleep really easily. Mm-hmm. And all I can do is just force myself to just be in my thoughts. But I think that's why I have weird dreams. I honestly think that might be why I have weird dreams. Because I already don't know, like, I don't know what's real and what's not. Like, am I sleeping or am I imagining this?
You should try melatonin. I've tried melatonin and Jesus Christ. The dreams
knocks
are
you out.
not wow. The dreams are just horrific.
Really?
It's true. Like, I remember I thought thinking that, like, like maybe it's just me because I've tried taking melatonin and, like, every single time, the most terrifying nightmares I've ever had. And it wasn't until recently that I saw people posting like memes about like dreams on melatonin and it's like disturbing images. And I'm like, yeah, it is like that. So I don't know. I feel like if you can't sleep, you're kind of damned. But
and you're recommending that?
No. I'm just saying because I was like, if your dreams are wild now, you should try melatonin. But I feel like one thing, if I have to say an answer, is that I learned is I saw Hank Green talk about it where he says your brain appreciates even if you can't sleep, just closing your eyes and resting. So I guess before I used to be very frustrated. Like if I couldn't sleep, I'd be like, man, like I guess I'll just be on my phone, like because I can't sleep. But hearing that, where it's like you still get benefits of just like closing your eyes, it helps, you know? So maybe stuff like that.
Well,
Yeah, I agree.
because my boyfriend can't sleep.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he says that like he just can't sleep. Like he just stays up.
Yeah.
And I tell him, I'm like, bro, just close your eyes. Like, and he's like, it doesn't work. I'm like, but like, it's just good for you to just close your eyes.
Yeah.
I also heard that it is bad to like look at your phone if you can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Cause like the more you're looking at your screen, that it kind of isn't like helping you.
It's the light. It's the type of, that's why when you hit like, you know how there's night mode?
Yeah, there's night
it
shade.
cuts off like blue light or some one of them that like, I guess your brain registers that as like, oh, I'm seeing that type of light, so I need to stay awake. So I think before the correct thing to do is like 2 hours before you go to bed, you're not supposed to look at screens.
Yeah. I'd also recommend doing something active throughout the day, because one of the things that helps me is because I have my job and then I go to the gym on top of having to do just like chores. By the end of the day, I'm just exhausted and I want nothing more than to just fall asleep. So I think that would probably help a lot. Like just do something. I remember when I was really young and it was more that I couldn't sleep, I would do push-ups. And then that would actually help, because you know when you're working out and then you take a pause between working out and you like sit down or you lay down and you're like, I don't want to get up back up.
Yeah.
It does that where I'm like, I'm tired after the push-ups, so I'll just lay down and then
just make sure you're physically exhausted.
Yeah. I just think maybe physically exhausting yourself. And then plus you get a good workout in. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Those are our recommendations if you can't fall asleep.
Very
Hell yeah.
cool.
Just close your eyes.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes. Bro, just go to sleep.
Just
go to sleep.
Bro, just sleep. All right, well, moving on to my topics. I'm going to talk about tattoos. Specifically, I wanted to talk about the relation of growing up like in a Mexican household and getting tattoos. Because I had a very interesting conversation inspired by my girlfriend. Because she doesn't have siblings and I have two. And I told her that one of the benefits of having siblings is that sometimes the sibling that comes after you actually ends up opening new avenues for you. And I talked about how for my sister, she was the first one in our family to get a tattoo. And because she opened that avenue to my parents, my Mexican parents being like, what the fuck? Holy shit. My brother was able to get a tattoo. So he then got a tattoo, even though he was the oldest and my sister was younger. Older. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about that relation, about how it's kind of a blessing to have a sibling that could get you a tattoo. But I felt like it had a little bit more significance because you're a Latina. And I feel like naturally, as a Latina, there are certain rules that are put on you that aren't put on the son. And I feel like if there's anything that I can think about that's blasphemy that people like will faint over, especially when you think of like the older generation, like grandma, grandpa, it's tattoos. And I just wanted to get into your mind, Julie, of like, were you afraid when you first got your tattoo?
I feel like it was different for me when I got my tattoo because I had talked to mom about it already, and we were supposed to get a matching one. I still got the tattoo, which is like behind my elbow. And so I think I had heard already these stories of like Valentin, our older brother. And again, like he's 6 years older than me and he always wanted one, but I always heard the story about like when he would tell mom and mom would be like, oh, like te voy a poner la plancha if you actually want like a mark on you. So she'd be like, oh, I'm going to just put the iron if you want something on your body. Right. So he was always just very like scared about it. I weirdly enough wasn't scared about it because I think since I had the idea that like mom was already on board with it, that she kind of was like, okay, like this will be cool. Like it already had, I guess, like a good like
foundation.
Yeah, like a good thing to it because it had a meaning. But then she eventually was like, oh no, it's gonna be painful. Like I'm not gonna get it. And so I feel like I just knew how to talk to mom and like persuade her in a way. So then when she said that she wanted to get a matching one, I was like, okay, like we're going to match whatever. And then she eventually backed out because she was scared of the pain. And then I was like, well, are you fine if I get one? If I just get it then? And she was just like, I forgot what she said, but all I remember in my head was that she never said no. I was like, she didn't say no. And well, she didn't say yes either, but she didn't say no. Like she didn't specifically was like, no te lo agarres. She was just more like, well, you know, if you kind of want to get it, you know.
It's your body.
It's your body kind of thing. I don't know if she said that specifically, but she said something, but it wasn't no. And so this was during the time when I was still in college up in San Francisco. And I remember it was Friday the 13th. I don't remember what month. I think it was probably like October. And my friends were like, oh, well, we should all go get tattoos. And I went, and the line was long. And I just remember my friends were like, oh, well, if this is your first tattoo, like, we'll take you somewhere else to get, like, a better one instead of just getting the ones that they have. And so then I ended up getting the one that I had already told my mom. And then when I showed it to her, well, okay, so I got that one. And then a month later, I got another one. And then it was November, and I was going to go see them for Thanksgiving. I remember, I think Valentin picked me up, but I didn't. Oh, no, I told him in the car. And he was the one who was like, oh, I want to be there when you tell Mom and Bobby. Because he already had grown up with the thing of, like, they're going to be mad. And, like, he really wanted them to, like, get mad at me. to, like, for them to, like, shout at me or whatever. It took me, like, probably, like, a good 4 or 5 days that I, like, hid. And it was hot, and I was wearing a sweater the whole entire time. And then I eventually showed it to Mom, and I was like, oh, I have something, like, to show you guys. And then I showed her the tattoo, and I was like, oh, remember that we said we were going to get this? And she was just like, ¿te lo agarraste? And, you know, like, she was just very, like, oh, my God, why did you get it kind of thing? And I was like, well, I asked you, and you didn't say, like, no. And then I was like, but I got another one. And then I was like, oh, this one's for Dad. And I remember my dad was so happy about it because he, like, I think he was happy of the fact of, like, the meaning behind it of, like, I got it for him. But Mom was the one who was a little more, like, I guess, mad in a way. But she wasn't as furious as I thought she was going to be. So, like, it wasn't that bad.
So it goes to show you, get a tattoo. Your parents won't care. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
I think they will care. Because I remember when I got mine, too. I just feel like it's so funny. Like, as a Mexican, like, the guilt you feel when you get your first tattoo is crazy. Because I remember just that speech that Mom would always give us. She would give us a speech about, when I gave birth to you, I gave birth to you with a perfect body, 10 toes, 10 fingers. Yeah. And now you want to disgrace it and put images on it and, like, fuck up your skin and, like, poison your blood. And, like, it's going to affect your kids. Did you know that? Did you know that it affects your kids? And I was like, bro. I was like, how come you didn't tell my sister this?
I feel like I vaguely remember that, but I think because I grew up such in a, like, I knew that we were treated differently, and, like, I kind of, in a way, wanted to be rebellious. But, I mean, it wasn't, like, that much of a rebellion because I did talk to her about it. Like, I was pretty open to her about it. And, like, I think
soft launched?
Yeah, like, I think the reason it was so easy with me was because in the beginning we were gonna get a matching one, and I think she was so on board with it until eventually when she thought about, like, the pain, that she was like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. That again, and I think the way I talked to her about it, I knew her so well of, like, how to persuade her to be like, oh, like, we should do it, and, like, it's, like, this big meaning about us, right? That in a way, I think that's what, like, got to her. And I don't know if that's the way everyone else should do it, where they're like, oh, like, put a meaning to it or whatever. I don't know, like, to persuade your parents to, like, let you get one. But that's the way it kind of, like, worked for me, where it was just like, I think I started giving her a better understanding of it, of, like, it's art on your body. And I think that's what I said to her. So I feel like I kind of just talked to her about it, where I was just like, you know, it's just a thing. Like, it's not bad. Like, it's just, like, a cool thing to kind of just have. And again, this was me in college. Like, this is me, like, a lot older.
As a grown adult feeling like a kid.
Yeah. And I was just more, like, talking to her about it. And I mean, I had gotten her on board at one point until she just thought about the pain. But I feel like, it was very much that she was a little mad about it. And I think she was, like, a little mad about, like, me kind of, like, changing my body in a way. Because she was more worried of the fact about me getting jobs. And I remember that was the other thing, that she was just very worried that, like, if I got a tattoo, like, I wouldn't get a job. Because I remember that's what she would tell our older brother for sure. And I know that when I got them, that was one of her worries, was that, like, people weren't going to like me because I had my tattoos. But I feel like I do remember her talking to her about those things and being like, no, like, it's mine, like, all these things, you know, which is why I think she became a little more, like, chilled out with me. And I don't know, maybe it was different because I was the girl that, like, for me, it was a lot more different than with you guys, where she like would tell you guys certain things.
Yeah.
But I also feel like because of me, like kind of just like being rebellious in a way, where like she was like, okay, like we kind of saw this, and then Bobby was so chill about it that he kind of chilled out mom. So then I think that's how it kind of worked for me, of also just being the girl of like, I think that's why it was so easy to kind of do it. And then yeah, from there, eventually you guys did it, and then Valentin did it, and he was in his 30s already when he got it. Because he was still scared to show mom. So like it was very embedded in him of like the things that mom would say. And I would just, for me, it was always just overhearing those things. It wasn't like ever that she directly told me. It was always just me kind of hearing it. And I think that's why my experience was a little different than maybe what you guys went through. So for sure, I mean, now when I do get more, she does like she still tells me. She'll be like, "Oh, why'd you get it? Like, why are you still getting it?" kind of thing.
Me too, bro.
But and especially I think the one that I was worried the most was the skeleton, because she doesn't like skeleton or skulls.
Yeah.
Like that's the one that she doesn't really like. I always liked skeletons, because it always reminded me of like Dia de los Muertos, which I always thought was funny that she doesn't like them. But she was always very like against those. But I remember when I got mine, and I think that was the one that I was most worried about. But mostly when I get them, I just don't tell her until she sees them.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, "Wait, did you get a new one?" And I'll be like, "Yeah."
I remember sometimes I would be at Ross, right? Traditional, ancient Mexican ceremony, the shopping at Ross, and I would find a shirt that has like a skeleton on it, and my mom would be like, "That shit's fucking ugly." She'd like spit on me and like.
Is there like a cultural reason why? Or is
I think she probably
preference?
just thinks she
Bad
probably
luck.
just sees it like as bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The vibe I get is that she kind of sees it also as like almost gang affiliated. Like
I thought it was more like it represents death, so you're kind of inviting that.
I mean that too, but I think it goes hand in hand, because I know like in Mexico, some of the cholos or the gangsters, whatever you want to call them, they praise La Muerte, like the saint.
Yeah.
So you see that imagery in people who are like in part of gangs.
Interesting.
They very much rep the skull and skeletons everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think my mom has that association with anybody who reps skeleton and skulls. It's like this vagrant, this like bad individual who's inviting evilness and therefore will do evilness upon the world. And that's the vibe I get, because I remember just growing up, because obviously I love skeletons too, and especially because I'm a boy. A lot of boy clothes come like with the like skeletons, like or like the driving bikers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I literally would be at Ross, and that's so funny. And like I just feel like that's such a stereotype. But we'd be at Ross, and I'd find like a cool ass badass shirt with like a skull on it, and she would literally like throw up in her mouth, like what the fuck is that? Like cringe. Like she would make me feel more like that shit is just cringe than anything else. She'd be like, no, that's not for you. Now that I'm older, I'm like, man, she robbed me of so many cool shirts. There were so many cool skull shirts over the years. Do your parents, how was your parents like reaction?
My dad was always cool with it because he has a bunch of tattoos. So never any pushback from him whatsoever. In fact, I have plans for them to get a matching tattoo.
Aww.
So he was always cool with it.
Aww.
My mom was more the one who was obviously not super fond of it, but she really warmed up to it after. I think it's just the initial one. I feel like once you rip off the Band-Aid of the initial one, because now she's like, "Oh, you should get this. Like, you should get sleeved up. You should get your last name." And I'm like, "Mom, you know." So it's never really been that big a deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Maybe it's because I'm the baby, but I feel like my mom has actually she gets more mad with every new tattoo that I get. I think it's because for me, I've placed them in such a way where it really looks filled out on my right arm. So I think it looks like there's more than there actually is. And so she thinks like, oh my God, this guy's gonna, like, his blood is just pure ink.
Well,
like he's gonna keel over.
Well, I try to paint it more positively of like, I'm sure as a parent, like when we're parents, it'll probably be like, I don't think we'll be the same in terms of like, oh God, it'll probably, but I think when you're like that, you probably see your kid as like pristine, as like you're perfect the way you are. So I'm sure it probably hurts a little to be like, why are you changing yourself? Like, you don't like the way I made you?
It's like plastic surgery.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of parents can take it very far, but I can offer some like, I guess I see where you're coming from.
Would you be mad at your kid though if you got a really shitty tattoo? And like, it's like
I would hope at the very least that they have common sense about it. Of like, come on, man, you don't gotta get anything on your face.
What would you do if he got? He's 18 years old and he gets it on the shoulder, but he gets something stupid. He gets like the McDonald's logo.
I feel like I don't know. I would just be like, I don't know. I feel like you messed up, man. That's what you gotta live with. Whatever. It couldn't be me. Like how CM Punk has the Pepsi.
Yeah.
Maybe
exactly.
if it's like that, where he's like straight edge, and that's he's like, oh, my drug of choice is McDonald's. I'm like, I guess.
He has a McDonald's tattoo.
Well, because that's why CM Punk has the Pepsi, right?
Yeah, because he would go to parties, right, and everybody his age would be drinking beers and stuff, and then they would get tattoos of like their favorite drinks or like a beer bottle, and he'd be like, oh, what's like? So I was like, well, if everybody's getting beer, like I love Pepsi, like let me get Pepsi tattooed on me. So the Pepsi is like an image of like straight edge, of like that he doesn't drink or anything. Cause he'd be like, oh, like what do you want to drink? Like, you guys got Pepsi? So that's like the whole meaning behind that Pepsi tattoo. Which I think is kind of low key, kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
if it's like that, I feel like
McDonald's, I choose McDonald's over alcohol.
McDonald's
but he's a drug addict anyways.
Yeah.
So what happened, son? He was like, life, bro, life. But moving on to my second topic. I also think, like what you said though, real quick, you like put a positive spin on it. For me, the positive spin that I try to implement is that it does feel like a reconnection to my roots, because indigenous people also had tattoos. Same thing with piercings. I feel like it's a way to reconnect because everybody had it back in the day and they weren't associated with anything negative. And I feel like to associate it now with negative feels very colonial. So I feel like that's the positive spin that I try to spin on it. But moving on, I wanted to talk about Joe Coy and how he bombed at the fucking, I was going to say Oscars, at the fucking Golden Globes. Me and my sister were actually watching it live, huh, Julie?
Yeah.
We were watching it live. And I told you, I was like...
because I had told him about, like, who Joe Coy was. Well, I had only heard about, like, about him, like, on the internet, right? About, like, how he... I think they said that he was the first Filipino, right, to host the Golden Globes. And I had told him, I was just like, oh, like, I guess, like, it was a semi big deal because like they had like announced it like not that far into like when it was gonna happen, right? But that was like only like the one thing that I heard about. And then I've seen him, I think probably like on TikTok where he like does comedy, and I told Stevie, I was like, oh, he does a lot of like comparisons between Filipinos and like Mexicans, where he'll like joke around about it and whatever. But that's all I had ever like heard about him. Like that's all I kind of knew.
So you're a Joe Coy apologist, Julie?
Apologist? I'm not apologizing.
I've honestly never heard of him, but I heard that a lot of people have a problem with him because he tends to punch down on the culture. Like he'll get up. I haven't seen or heard him, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I heard that a lot of his jokes stem from the fact of like, ha ha ha, like Filipinos do this. Isn't that so lame and weird and cringe? That kind of shit. So I assume a lot of the like. I guess maybe for some people it's kind of like annoying and upsetting to see somebody represent the culture, but when they have that spotlight, they choose to punch down on it. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, come on, man. Like, you made it, and now all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, thank God I'm not, you know? It's like...
Yeah, people said that he was trying to be like Ricky Gervais. You know how Ricky Gervais roasted like everybody when he hosted Golden Globes? He said that he was trying to be like that, but what do you think the miscommunication came from? Or where do you think the misdelivery came from?
He said it was his writers, right? That he didn't write the jokes?
Yeah, which is like you never do. You never just like blame somebody else for like bombing. Because I feel like it's all about delivery too. Yeah. And the way you kind of take it. And you
could also just be like, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, but also at least obviously what he said was very insensitive and I'm not excusing that. But I at least empathize with that feeling of like, fuck, like people aren't reacting the way I want to. Like now I'm scared. Like let me just say something. You know, because I've done a lot of public speaking.
Well, because he got frustrated, and I think that's why he like blamed his writers.
Oh, really? I didn't watch it. I don't know.
Well, at least from the clips. Because we didn't get to watch when he did the monologue, because that was in the beginning. We saw it like way until like it had already started. But from the videos that like I've watched, it just seemed like he slightly panicked, and that's why he was like he blamed like the writers. He was because nobody was really laughing, and like he was basically bombing at least those parts. That eventually where he talked about. And I think it just looked like he was just really like he was trying to still like compose himself, which is why he's like, oh, I didn't write these, but like the jokes you are laughing at, like I wrote those.
Yeah.
And so at least it just felt like he was just like frustrated and he just kind of panicked, or he was just like, he just wanted to blame someone, which is kind of like, I guess, an easy way out, right, for him, of like, oh, I'll just blame someone else for like me kind of just being lame right now.
Yeah. I didn't get his joke though. The one that he said about Barbie.
He said it's just based. I think
no, not that one. The other Barbie joke. The one where he says, Mario Robbie plays a woman with cellulite and
Cellulite.
Cellulite.
Yeah.
My bad, cellulite. What else was it? Cellulite. Wrinkles?
I think he said
flat feet and
is that when he says boobs? I don't remember.
No, and then something else, and he's like, or what we like to call character actor.
I don't know what that meant.
What does that mean?
Character acting. I think that's what he said.
Character
acting. I don't know. I thought. Maybe,
I don't get that one.
Maybe the
I
joke is
didn't
he's
get that
saying
one
like
either.
she doesn't have to act, like she's just her. That's just who she is. Or I don't know.
Is that
He
what
said
it
that's
is?
what did he say? That's what film people call.
That's what we Indian casting directors call character acting.
I didn't get what that meant either.
But it was one that people said was like very offensive. So that's the one that I don't understand though.
Let's Google.
I don't
character actor is.
I don't disagree that it wasn't offensive. I just didn't understand the joke.
I just didn't get the joke either.
Yeah.
I think before I looked it up, he's saying that like she's not acting. Like that's just like
who she is.
I think like
Character
she doesn't have
acting.
to.
Cellulite, flat.
Oh
feet.
wait, never mind. Character actor is an actor known for playing unusual, eccentric, or interesting characters in supporting roles rather than the leading ones. The term is somewhat abstract and open to interpretation. And I feel like that makes me more confused.
So what does it mean?
Wait.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's just a bad joke.
Well, my interpretation now is I think he's saying that like that's something undesirable, right? Like having cellulite and like flat feet and stuff. So basically saying that like what casting directors call like somebody who doesn't get that role. I guess. I don't know.
Or is he saying like I don't know.
She's too pretty for the role.
That's
I
the
don't
one.
know.
That's
I
the
don't
one.
know.
Well, because like
or is he saying like that's like a normal thing, and he's highlighting that like her playing that is kind of ironic. That's
Because
just like,
that is her.
Because no.
Oh,
that,
I get you.
that people like that are just people. Like someone with
Yeah.
flat feet, cellulite, and whatever.
Saying
That's just
like-
like a person.
yeah.
But he's saying like, oh, she's a character actor, being like making fun of the fact that she's playing something completely normal,
Yeah.
and that she's the one who's actually
Yeah, because she's
not
such a mega.
normal?
Yeah,
because she's like
a mega star.
she's like
Do you get it?
visually perfect to a lot of
So
people.
then is it offensive because it's like discrediting what she did?
Well,
I
that's
don't
what that's
know.
where I was like the most confused when people were like, "This one was really offensive." Because the other joke was offensive,
Which one? The one he said
but
big
big
boobies or whatever?
boobs and stuff because it discredited everything that they were talking about. Well, it didn't discredit. It doesn't his jokes don't discredit the movie, but he tried to undermine the movie. But specifically that one where people kept pointing down the character acting, I just didn't understand. Like,
I guess he just missed.
yeah, but I mean, like in that sense, I was like, but did anybody understand like what he meant by this? Like,
Maybe
I
that's
don't
why
know.
nobody laughed.
I don't know. I feel like with the award shows, I stopped watching them because it seems like every year there's just always something that just like
happens.
not just happens, but people like that's just genuinely just bad. Like there's that time with Moonlight, like they gave the Oscar to the wrong person. Will Smith slapped fucking Chris Rock. I feel like at this point it's almost like, are you guys doing this on purpose? Like, is that how you guys get viewers? Is you want people to
Well,
watch
'cause I
expecting
think-
something horrible to
I
happen?
think for a while, I think it was that they were losing viewership.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those award shows started losing viewership. And I think because I feel like I remember hearing that. Because I think the cringy part now is that they really try to be funny.
Yeah.
And I remember I told Stevie, I was like, it's weird because like they're reading, right? And so then are they still acting? Like, are they like,
I think
are they acting to be like these kind of like hosts? Because they do have to read like something, right? They have like the, what is
I
it
think
called?
it's written for them.
Yeah, like
not
it's
them.
already like written for them. So it's just like, and you can kind of hear it, which I think is weird because I was saying, I was like, you can tell that they're like reading off something, and it's like, it's like it's an actor acting in this, but it feels so bad, like it's a horrible acting.
It's an actor
I
acting
just-
as themselves.
I just feel like honestly, in my lifetime, I've never seen an award show like be
That was cool.
Not that it was cool, but I've never. I mean, maybe in my lifetime, but like, I just never see them go like well. Like when there's Gamers Awards or there's always something that
like
goes
literally
on.
all award shows.
All award shows seem to have something up with them, and I feel like maybe it's just because people just don't. I feel like maybe there's this air of they want to be taken seriously, but nobody wants to take them seriously because it's like it's an arbitrary award.
Yeah.
Like a Oscar, what does that even mean? Like it's everybody knows it's rigged. Like it's who has the most money and who can campaign the most. Versus like, I don't know, an NBA championship or like a Super Bowl. It's like
that's objective skills.
It's objective skills where this is kind of more perspective. And they
Very
always
subjective.
or like the Grammys, right? When Macklemore beat Kendrick Lamar for like
album of the year or something.
Yeah, for what did he was it Good Kid, Mad City or something like that.
But that's because Macklemore had dropped the thrift shops.
Yeah,
song.
but so I just think a lot of people
I know what he's talking about.
I just don't think anybody takes award shows seriously, and I think rightfully so, because I feel like they're obviously really biased and they never actually award the person who deserves it.
They're very subjective.
They're pretty racist and they're pretty like they've have a history of being like excluding like people of color, and then now everybody knows that most of these actors were on the Epstein list, and it's like it's kind of weird.
That's wild.
So it's like I don't know that anybody can fucking like. I just feel like it's not.
That's a bar.
I don't know. That's because I feel like that's if you want to say what made Ricky Gervais's thing like, whether you like him or not, I feel like that's kind of what made it like popular was that like he calls him out for that kind of shit because he's like, this is kind of weird.
It was so good.
This is kind of weird air, like half of you guys were buddies with Harvey Weinstein.
Ricky Gervais, he did when he hosted, I think Golden Globes, right? Not the Oscars. Golden Globes, right?
he did a monologue where he basically just went in on the actors, and he said like half of you guys are like horrible people, and like you guys get.
He's
on
the guy
here.
with the like accent, right?
Yeah, and he's like, you get on here and you preach to the public, but like
then go on your jets,
go on your jets, and you produced like 120 tons of carbon dioxide.
He was the one that was like, just get your awards. Don't talk about the environment. Don't talk about this. Like,
talk about politics. Shut the fuck up. And then go do your drugs after.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I don't know. That's why I think, I don't know. I just feel like award shows really like.
He hit it though. He hit that. My favorite joke was the one where he did mention Epstein, and you hear the crowd goes, "Oh," and then it was like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Oh, sorry. I know he was your friend," and then they go even more ballistic.
Yeah.
Was it Epstein or was it Weinstein? One of them. One of the Steens.
It might have been Weinstein.
But then he also, because Apple was there, like the CEO of Apple was there, because Apple TV, and he's like, "Do you know like how horrible of a company Apple is?" And then he says something like, "If ISIS was making a movie, you guys would call your agents immediately." So it's like, I don't know. I feel like whether you like him or not, I feel like a lot of people think that way. Of like, a lot of these celebrities are really like, I don't know, not amazing people. So I just think it's hard for anybody to take them seriously anymore.
And people always point out, do you think that's accurate? You know how people always point out when Ricky Gervais did his thing, they point the camera at Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks is doing the white people smile. Do you think that's accurate, or do you think he was doing a bit?
Who?
I always just Tom Hanks.
But like, what about that?
Yeah, you know how they cut to him and he's doing the white people smile, and people are like, look how upset he is. Like he feels so uncomfortable. I always think like, are you guys sure Tom Hanks isn't doing a bit? Like as in like he's pretending. You know when I'm seeing, because Jennifer Lawrence has done it where she's like, if I don't win, I'm leaving. Right? She's obviously joking. That's what I mean. Like as a bit, like is Tom Hanks also just joking in that moment?
It could be, but I also feel like if you're in that, like, all right, I won't go into too much detail, but like as podcasters, we know some podcast drama, and I feel like if we were ever at a podcast like award show and someone brought up some of the things we know, I'd go, woof, I can't believe that went tonight. So I'm sure being in that position and like there's a giant elephant in a room and somebody finally brings it up, you're probably like, Jesus, like that's wild. So I don't know that it's a bit, but I also don't know that he's like, oh, guilty, I feel like, I feel like it's because people will be like, oh, he's doing that because he knows he's talking about him. I'm like, I don't know about that either. I feel like it's just like, this is kind of an awkward environment to be in.
True. I'll leave it at that for this week. But we'll talk about. We have a lot left to talk about Barbie, but I'll save that for a later time. But Brandon, what did you bring?
My turn.
Yeah. What did you bring for this week?
Let me open my laptop.
No worries, bro. No worries. In the meantime, I'll improvise. I'll save the floor. I'll do stand up right now. Yeah, I'll do stand up right now.
Do your own. What would you do if you were hosting the awards?
Yeah. Okay. So Oppenheimer, only in America can you drop a bomb on another country and then make a whole movie and win awards and give yourself the award and say, I don't know.
It's not bad. That's not
And
bad.
then Barbie.
You wrote that yourself? No.
my staff wrote that. I wrote the ones that you guys laughed about today.
But the best director directed that, bro.
Christopher
No?
Nolan.
Christopher Nolan.
Isn't he good?
Is he the GOAT? He's
Is he the
good.
He's good, but I feel like no, he's good.
He's good. He's
I feel
really
like he
good.
just gets like your movies are too confusing allegations.
Yeah.
You know.
Let me
Like,
see Barbie.
I never watched Tenet, but a lot of people say he kind of jumped the shark on that one.
Barbie did something groundbreaking which has never been seen before in Hollywood.
Okay.
They talked about
No, I was gonna say like
women.
they made Ryan Gosling smile. I don't know.
But side note, I don't know if this is true. Before I get into it, is that true where people say because you know that clip where he kind of looks confused and he's upset?
Oh, yeah.
I heard he was actually upset that he didn't want it because he said that they should have gave it to like.
For when the
when he
song
went-
one?
I'm Just Ken.
When I'm Just Ken won. Is that true? I heard that he was
I don't know.
upset.
I've
that
never really
that-
I
seen
mean,
it.
I don't know if he was actually, like I said, I don't know if
It was
he's
a
being
bit?
dead ass or a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's mad funny. But
Yeah, he is mad funny. But that is true. When he won, they cut to the camera and he's like,
Well,
what the
because
fuck?
I think something, I don't know. I really don't know. So for me saying this with my chest out, it feels a little funny. But I think it was something that he felt like it should have gone to like Billie Eilish or something.
Yeah, for the same movie.
Yeah, like it should have, like he felt like weird that they were giving it to him as a dude, especially because the movie was like about women.
Mhm.
So that's why he was kind of like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I feel right.
I think that's just the leading theory, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's
He
confirmed.
might have just been like, huh? Like
We'll
doing a bit.
put a fact
He
check
might have
up
just
right
been
here.
like confused.
But I don't know.
He's like, really? I won?
I hear he's a cool guy.
He's a cool guy.
I hear
can
he's
tell
a
he's a
cool
cool guy.
guy.
He's married to a Mexican woman. So wait,
Ava?
right? Eva Mendes
I
is
don't know.
Mexican.
I
Right?
Is she
know.
Mexican?
I think so. Oh
I
my
don't
god,
know.
I'm embarrassed.
But I think it's cool. That
She's
they-
Latina, so
I feel like it's cool that they met on set and you know
it's a dub. She's
Where did they
Latina.
meet?
the place beyond the pines where they play a married couple or like not a married but they play a couple and then they fell in love. I'm like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, Place Beyond the Pines. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
No.
It's a cute movie. You should watch it.
Do you want to watch it? Can I
Sure.
spoil it? Nah, never mind.
Don't spoil it. It's a good movie.
No, I said I was going to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, but Brandon, go ahead. Let us
Okay,
know.
so I don't know. This is a very disjointed. I don't know. Maybe you guys can see the through line. Maybe you guys can't. I feel like I don't know what this is. I feel like maybe it's more just me sharing my thoughts on what I've been thinking about. So
You're like, so the Epstein list.
So actually, I'm really depressed, guys. And, I don't know. So basically, I guess what kind of got me thinking about this was, I remember, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago. That sounds like a long time, but it was probably then. I was having like me and my dad were hanging out, and we were smoking and drinking, and maybe it was the alcohol, but he started giving me like life advice. I don't remember what led up to it or how it kind of got to where this led up to the setup or whatever, or what I said, what he said. But his advice to me was, you should always try and do the right thing. Like you should try to be a good person when you can, and you should always try to be good. And I was like, oh, that's really good advice. And it sounds very vague and stuff like that, but I think what kind of made it stick with me is he added like a caveat where he said that it sounds very vague and like self-explanatory, but he added that it's challenging to be a good person because sometimes doing the right thing is not the right thing. And you have to learn when that is. And I was like, interesting. Like, and ever since then, that never really left my mind. But I guess this is the part where I'm like, I feel like being a good person or like that concept, it's not like a overnight thing. It's not even like a week to week thing. It's kind of a lifelong journey. So it's not like I can say like, oh, after that conversation, I became a good man. And all of a sudden here I am on the other side of that. No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just like it's more of a very abstract concept. But needless to say, it never really, I don't know, it just hasn't left my mind. And I feel like for some reason it's just been, I think, one of the more present virtues in my life since I've entered my mid-20s. I feel like it's something that's been on my mind. And like I said, I can't really add anything that's like, you know, here's the end of that story. It's just more on my mind. But I feel like when that kind of thing happens, I tend to like overthink and over-explain and kind of just really try to to deep dive into like what that means, because I feel like whenever I don't understand something, I try my best to kind of understand it in an objective way. Like I talk about religion a lot on this show, or spirituality, and I can't for the life of me understand that. I can't really ever put my place in that. And so my way of trying to put my place into that is to like really study it and to really like dive into it. So with this, it got me thinking about like what is good? Like what is the nature of being good? Is it like a man-made construct? Is it a metaphysical force? You know, what motivates people to be good? Do good people inherently exist? And why should you even bother? I don't know. I guess before I start, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Like,
Briefly.
does good exist?
Yeah. What do you guys think the concept of being good is?
That's a good question.
Is to be good.
Is to be good.
Is to be good.
You'd be surprised how that's not a bad answer.
I think about,
Kindness.
I think of hope.
Interesting.
I think hope. Because I feel like we live in such a hopeless world recently. I feel like a lot of people don't have hope. Hope for better days, hope for better humans, hope that everything's going to be okay. So to me, I associate justice and good in the world as hope. You hope that you will overcome your problems, and you hope that people will somehow, some way be a good person. You hope that our problems as a society will be figured out. Maybe not in your lifetime, but sometime. So I think that's how I associate goodness in the world.
Yeah. Really?
I feel like I kept thinking about just like what's the word? Kind of like acts of service of people doing certain things for you out of like, out of just like doing it, you know, not doing, giving and not expecting to like receive something back, right? As like Stevie was talking, I just kept thinking about like how maybe sometimes it's a little hard to be good because sometimes you feel like some people are really mean to you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of like stay in the positive than rather like in the negative. But I always keep thinking of just what I said too, like kindness, of just being like kind to others and like caring, is what I see as being good, because you're there for like others and kind of putting like others kind of first, than yourself. Because I feel like, at least for me, when I do that, I think that does good to me, because I feel like I'm doing like, it's kind of like a purpose. Like it gives me purpose of like, I'm here for this person so that they can feel good, so that if it makes me feel good of like, I feel like I'm doing something. So I don't know. I saw it more as just like acts of like doing certain things.
I guess for me too, I found it, I don't know, just interesting objectively, because I feel like I don't know. I don't think I'm an evil person. I don't think I'm, Satan, but I also don't think I'm Christ. I feel like there's a lot of room to grow, but I feel like I find that interesting because I feel like when I was younger, I feel like everybody wants to be good. Like everybody wants to be a good person, but it was never this active, like, nah, like I really should try to make the good choice. And I find it interesting that kind of happened inside of me, of where there's kind of like this deep desire to be good, of like, I just want to be a good person. I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want people to have like a negative thought. I want people when they think of me like, Brandon's a good guy. He's a good person. And I don't know, that just made me curious, because I'm like, where does that come from? Like what benefits me? Like why? I just want to understand that. So I feel like, I guess I looked into like where that comes from, and like what even is the definition of being good. And here's the textbook definition. The concept of goodness lacks a universal definition, but is generally associated with moral excellence, virtual and ethical behavior. Influenced by philosophy, culture, and religion, it can often take a lot of diverse forms. So there's really not like a through line. Like an example would be like, this culture might think this is good, like being obedient to your parents and doing everything they want. That to them is being a good and virtuous person. But I guess more in America, it's carving your own path, doing what's inside you. That's being a good person. And if you look at religion, like the Christian Bible, Jesus emphasizes like humility and mercy. And like, if you look at Jesus as the character, you can argue he's the embodiment of what a good person is, right? He's sacrificial, he shows mercy, he forgives, he's all these qualities. And then something I found really interesting was in Greek philosophy, because a lot of goodness and that idea of being a good or virtuous person is really heavily like studied in philosophy. And I stumbled upon what was called Aristotle's virtue ethics. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. So Aristotle, he debated a lot, like, on what a good person is. And shout out to Hank Green. I watched his crash course to help me.
Shout out to Hank Green
to help me understand what
Mr. Green.
What this is. So basically, Aristotle kind of had a vague interpretation of what a good person is. He said a good person just always does the right thing, and a good person will always know what the right thing to do is. And Hank Green explains that, like, a lot of people see this definition, they're like, what? That's not very deep, right? You know, he's this philosopher, and it's like he basically says what Julie said, right? Where it's like, I don't know, just do good. But kind of deep diving into it a little bit, Hank Green demonstrates like what he means by that. And he says, Aristotle says that doing good lies between two extremes. And he called these extremes vices. But the middle ground where good lies, he called that the golden mean. So an example, right? He said that a good person is courageous. So a quality of a good person is courage. That lies between cowardice and recklessness. So what he meant by like, oh, it's person to person is like, let's say you walk into a store being robbed and the guy has a gun. Now the courageous like connotation that a lot of people would have is, oh, I like go and risk my life. But Aristotle argues that that's not courageous. That's actually being like reckless. That a courage person, a true good person would understand my limitations are there. And the good thing to do is to call the police. But there's situations where it's like, let's say I'm in the store with you. The guy doesn't have a gun. Hey, we can take this guy. That's the courageous thing to do. So he basically describes that it's person to person, and courage is more like if you have the capability to do something, even if you're afraid of doing it, you should do it. It's only not courageous if you have the capability to do it and you choose not to do it. And I found that really interesting because it kind of sounded like what my dad said about how like, oh, like sometimes the right thing to do isn't the right thing to do. I don't know. I thought that was really deep. I don't know. That's...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's hard, bro. Because I guess I find myself relating it to a lot of life experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of times where I feel like I've been in a crossroads where I just can't tell what the right thing to do is. Because I think of that quote you said, right? Like, a good person will know what the good thing to do is and will do the good thing. But I guess I struggle with what is the good thing to do.
Yeah. Well, he kind of addresses that too. He says that it's interesting because I don't know. I found this portion of, I guess, my research really interesting because Aristotle acknowledges that being a good person is a skill, and it's something that you have to craft and go out of your way to nurture. And he says it's something that you can't learn in books. He relates it to street smarts. He says a good person can only learn to be good through trial and error, and they have to see good people in order to emulate them. So you can't just read a book about what a good person is and then just be a good person. Aristotle argues that you have to have that demonstrated to you. You have to go out and practice. You have to go out and cultivate that. I don't know. Interesting stuff because it's like, I don't know. I guess that's interesting for me to hear from a philosopher, because I think they also mentioned that Aristotle emphasizes books. He emphasizes the importance of books. But to hear him be like, this is something I think is important to people. And then he's like, yeah, but you got to go out and learn that one. Interesting to me.
So it's more that you learn it through like just life experiences.
Yeah, he says it's like a skill. It's like it's crafted. He says it's not one of those things that you can just pick up and read. You have to go and have it demonstrated to you. And he emphasizes the importance of people having examples of people around you that are good and that you have to copy them to some extent. Because then he says that like once you do that, being good becomes a part of your nature. Mm-hmm. Interesting to me. I don't know.
So it is that you do learn through like others in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He says you learn through others and that it's kind of like a learned craft that you have to actively water.
Do you think that that's like an intimidating or scary thought for you?
Me personally?
Yeah, because for me, like, I guess maybe to give you like how I feel.
Yeah.
For me, I think about that means that you sometimes will, in trial and error, that means you will face the error.
Yeah.
There'll be times in your life where you'll make decisions and actions where you thought you were doing the good thing, and the results show you that that was clearly the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I asked, like, does that intimidate you or scare you? Because what Aristotle is saying is that is a necessary process in order to become better.
Well, I think sure, but he actually addresses that too.
Oh wow! Oh my god!
He knew. I guess he's a philosopher.
Yeah,
like, that's his job, right? He talks about how like I don't know if this is from a specific literary work or if this is like just I guess the culmination of the things that he studied. But he poses the questions of why bother being good? Like what's the like what benefits you? Like what's the gain of being a good person or pursuing virtuous or being a moral person? And in Greek it's called I might pronounce this incorrectly. It's eudaimonia. It's one of those words that doesn't have a translation. It doesn't have a single translation. It's more like Hakuna Matata, where it's kind of like it's like it basically means it's a life well lived, and it's described as a human flourishing. So basically, Aristotle describes being a good person or being a virtuous person as the pinnacle of what a human can be. He says if you live your life trying to be moral and trying to do the right thing, it pushes you to be the best you absolutely can be. And he feels that every human should strive to do that, because only through this style of living do you ever even come close to your true potential. But he acknowledges that you have to become comfortable with opening up yourself to disappointment and error, because it when you live this way, it's like you're constantly improving. There's never a certain point where you hit like, oh, I've achieved maximum goodness or I've achieved this. You kind of just keep going. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. Interesting stuff.
Well, because what you were saying and now that what he's saying, I feel like in a way it makes, at least me, it makes me feel more as like I shouldn't put myself more down for doing I guess the wrong thing, and like in a way where like I thought I was doing the right thing, right? But then it didn't go the way that I thought it would. It actually wasn't the good thing. At least to me, I saw it more of like not putting myself down for the choice that I made. And that could be like, it's interpreted differently, but it's just like depending on what the situation is, right? But I feel like if I thought it was the good thing and then I'm like, oh, like it wasn't, and like I messed up, like not being so harsh on myself about it, of like the error that I made, because it's kind of meant to happen that way, because then I learn, then I'm like, okay, next time I know what not to do, and like not being so harsh on myself of like, or putting myself down that I made the wrong choice, because it was kind of like I thought that's what it was, but I guess it wasn't, because again, like people's like feelings and like perspectives of certain things could just be very much like different as to yours, and what's good to you might not be good to somebody else. So like being in that of like, oh, like I did this, which I thought it was, but it wasn't. It got interpreted in a different way, not putting myself down for that I made that choice. Because it makes me learn, like, oh, like now I know that like this wasn't the good choice, right?
Exactly. Well, I think also it's interesting the way he demonstrates like these vices. Like another, like two other examples I think Hank Green I thought were really cool, where he talks about like, oh, honesty is a virtue of a good person, right? But that lies between not saying anything and brutal honesty. You know how a lot of people be like, oh, I'm brutally honest. Like, that's the good thing to do. Yeah. Aristotle disagrees. He says that, like, you need to know when, like, the right amount of honesty. And that's where it's, like, that's why I think he's implying it's a learned skill. Because, like, let's say you had, like, a giant zit on your forehead. If I was like, hey, bro, you know you have a disgusting zit on your face? You can be like, oh, well, I guess I'm being brutally honest. But Aristotle, you're like, no, you knew that wasn't the appropriate amount of honesty. You didn't have to say that. But let's say we were at school together and you had this really half-assed paper and you're like, you think this is good? I'd be like, maybe give it another draft, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's interesting to me. Because, I don't know, interesting stuff.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of examples like that in real life of times where the truth isn't necessary at the time. Like,
sometimes the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve more.
That's literally what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of The Dark Knight. Sometimes people deserve to have their face.
Or even like generosity, right? Like, again, they paint like, you know, if you have the means to give and you can, you should. But there's a difference between like, oh, I'm going to give all my money knowing that I have kids to feed or that I have bills to pay. You know, you have to know the right time to do stuff.
Yeah. What's also reminding me now that you guys talked about Batman is that when Alfred hides the card from him of like, of like from what's her name?
Rachel.
Rachel.
Because sometimes the truth isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes people deserve more.
That's all I kept thinking about. As you guys said, Batman too.
Yeah.
It reminds me of recently my nephew was talking to me and he was asking me like, why is it that when people die they get a halo and wings? And obviously the brutal truth, I could be like, well, I mean, maybe not. Yeah, maybe that's not real. Maybe when you died, there's nothing, and who fucking knows? You know, like we don't know. When you one day you're gonna die, and you're gonna get older, and you're gonna question like maybe it's not real. That's the brutal honesty I could give a little fucking boy.
Yeah,
is tell him that in all honesty, I don't have the answers, and nobody you will ever meet will have the answers. Yeah. All we know is that on a scientific level, there might not be anything after you die.
And if anyone tells you they're not scared, they're lying. Everybody's scared.
Everybody's scared. And it's genuinely scary.
Yeah.
Everybody has nights where they stay awake and they think about it. But I'm not going to tell a little boy that.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him like, oh, because they can fly in heaven.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, okay. You know?
Because he was a good guy and he, you know.
Yeah, that to me, that's the perfect example of it. Because it's like, with anybody who's a kid, because I mean, kids could also believe in Santa Claus. You could be like, Santa Claus isn't real. You'd be a fucking asshole, or you could just be like, yeah, he'll give you presents.
You know? Yeah. But I guess like with that, right, I find that to be a really interesting concept. But I think for me, it really, I don't know, it reiterates that perhaps it's just like just a man-made concept, that it doesn't exist like outside of people. And I don't know, obviously that's a very hotly debated, topic, like whether the nature of good or morality exists with or without people. And it's hard to find like arguments about like whether it does or not that don't involve religion, which is fine. It's interesting. I more went the biological route. Like I was interested in like, well, does good or altruistic nature exist in nature? Mm-hmm. And it does. It exists in nature. So like one of the things that scientists observe is like bats, right? It's usually in social creatures that they find it. Like bats will know if another member of their clan hasn't eaten, and they'll regurgitate food for them. Or whales and dolphins, they've been observed rescuing scuba divers. Like if there's a scuba diver in like an area that's very populated with sharks, dolphins will make sure it's safe. Mm-hmm. Or like or like whales, right? They'll notice that orcas or killer whales are going after a different member of a different species. Humpback whales will go out of their way to like to protect that species or really mess up the orca's hunt. And this is an interesting phenomenon because it's known as biological altruism. And in that case, scientists refer to that as being like when an organism goes out of its way to help another species or another animal, even if that doesn't benefit its survival and in fact is a detriment to its survival. So it's an observable like phenomenon, and I feel like even if you view that kind of stuff, it exists in people. You can see it in people if you want to see them as animals and stuff. Like,
it also reminds me of AI, because I was watching this video talking about consciousness. Right, this will be really quick. I won't take too much time. Cut to like 30 minutes later. But it's talking about consciousness, and they were talking about like how do you rate consciousness? Like how do we really know when a computer gains consciousness? Like how do we test that? And they have a test. It's basically like how good can it basically mimic like another person, and anonymously can it convince these other actual humans that it, and trick them into thinking that it's a real human. I think out of the 70 years that the test has been around, only 2 robots have ever passed, but then they failed the second stage. So we don't know. But in that video, they explain like, or maybe the way we think of consciousness is wrong. For example, a bird can fly on its own, but when we build a plane, those two things can fly, but they're very different in the way that they are, and I think about goodness. To me, I think about AI, and like, I wonder if AI ever became advanced enough, the thing that would make us know that it's conscious, it's like lack of wanting to die. Because I think when I think of animals and you're telling me all the things about how they protect, I think subconsciously all things that exist are deadly afraid of not existing. Yeah. And I think when a computer really, really, really does not want to cease to exist, I think to me that's when I know like
it hides its consciousness.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I don't know, it with biology and this kind of stuff, it's really, I guess it can sound like pessimistic, but you have to remove yourself a little bit and understand that it's just being objective. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of hypotheses about that, of how to explain that. So a lot of people say like, oh, like this is a form of like biologically paying it forward. So if you notice when I said like bats, like they're helping other members of their species, they think that that's more like, it's not so much selflessness as it is like delayed selfishness, in the sense that the bat can to some degree understand that like we're a collective species. So if all of our species does good, in the long run, we'll all do good. Or like with the whales, right? Some scientists propose that the whales might misinterpret these other species as like as a baby of their own. So in reality, they're not necessarily being selfless. They're being more just like, oh, that's a baby I should protect. Or even, and you can view this with people, like an example, right? Like a lot of people have with goodness, and because I define goodness as being selfless without expecting reward. But in the way that biology kind of looks at it, it's more just like that selflessness is more of a delayed reward. So like, let's say a mother goes hungry for her child. I won't go into like the human version of that just because I feel like it just sounds nasty. But like, let's say an animal, right? Like let's say a lion goes hungry for her cub. It's easy to kind of put the human like spin on it and be like, oh, the lion feels sympathy for its cub, and this is an example of love and altruism and goodness. And maybe I don't know. But the way biology explains it, it's more like, but the lion, it's more that it understands that its sacrifice is more for the greater good. That the cub surviving means that its genes will continue to pass on. So it's not so much that the lion's like, oh, like for the love of my child. It's more just the lion instinctually understands that its genes needs to survive. So it does anything at all costs to ensure that. And again, you could look at that in the benefit of people. So you can argue that a lot of good qualities are more or less like have a biological origin. And just because people can think and ponder and philosophize and all this stuff, we put like a different spin and a different label on it. Like I explained, like the going hungry for a child, right? Or because people are social creatures, they think that being selfless or doing something for the greater good in the long run benefits you. Like let's say I do something selflessly for you or Steve, right? You can argue like, oh, that's just because I care about you guys. But biologically, like if you trace that back to like maybe different days, it's more like, oh, if I get hurt, chances are because I've shown you guys kindness, you guys will show it back to me. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like this way of paying it forward, or this kind of thing.
It's like secretly selfish in a way. Well, maybe selfish is a strong word, but you gain something out of helping others. Out of it.
And I find that really interesting because it's like, I don't know. I guess the argument that I kept running into is that goodness is a man-made construct. That in reality, that a lot of these concepts are more just generated by a person. Like it's more just our ability to notice things and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the crux of my research, of what I found of what that means. But personally, I wasn't satisfied. I don't know. I don't like that. Something about that doesn't sit right with me in a certain way. And I wish I could give you guys like a better like, so then I discovered this and then there was this way of doing it, but not really. Mm-hmm. I think that's more just like a choice you have to make. Because I was trying to figure out like, well, what about are there any examples of like, are there genuinely any examples of being good where it genuinely doesn't serve you?
Yeah. You know what's so funny? There was a Friends episode about this.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, Phoebe, who's the hippie on the show.
Yeah.
She's in an argument with, I think, Joey, who Joey says that there's no such thing as a selfless good act. That everything benefits you because it makes you feel good. Yeah. Regardless of anything, it makes you feel good. And by the end of the show, she apparently discovers the selfless good act. Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah, what is it?
That when she was younger, she was very traumatized by, I think, like the YMCA or something.
Yeah.
By some program. And it super traumatized her. But it was like a program that was helping people in need. So despite her hating that program, she donated money to help them because they take care of like kids. And it doesn't make her feel good and it doesn't make her feel happy. But she did it because it's the right thing to do.
Well, it's interesting because like I couldn't. Again, this is one of those things that it bleeds into a lot of philosophy and a lot of religion. And so when you try to like, you can find it, it's just very gratuitous, So like if you try to search up like, oh, what's the true selfless act? A lot of religion comes up. So it's really hard to find something unbiased. So I asked ChatGPT if it could give me an example, and it was something like that.
Yeah.
It was like that its personal opinion was that it feels like anonymous donations are a form of a complex, selfless act that you can't necessarily boil down to a biological reason. I don't know. But I find that interesting. I find that interesting that for some reason that a lot of people study this, because I feel like I think a lot of in the animalistic research they talk about how like that a lot of biologists find it a bit interesting that you would think that being selfless is a recessive trait, because you think survival of the fittest, right? Like, oh, being selfish is going to benefit you. Like, why should I help Steve out? If I help Steve out, that means he's going to repopulate, and that's less room for me to repopulate. So they find it really interesting that biology actually doesn't really reward a selfishness in that kind of way. And I find it interesting because it's like, I don't know. Again, I really wish that I had like a conclusion to this in the sense that like I could give you guys a planted flag, but I can't. I think it's just more like what I'm thinking about. But I find it interesting that the desire to be good exists in people. I find it interesting that like for some reason in me, it doesn't sit right with me that a good act has, I feel like a good act should have selflessness. It doesn't sit right with me that there's something ulterior to it. And so, I don't know. I guess my conclusion is that if it exists in me, then that's proof it exists, period.
I like that. I really like that.
But I don't know.
I mean, that's what you were making me think. Because to me, it just relates to hope. And I only recently had this connection of like, I had no word to describe it. But recently somebody said hope. And I was like, you know what? I think that's what I like. And because to me, I agree with a lot of what you're saying is that I hope that I'm a good person and I can pass on goodness. And I like the phrase, I think, therefore I am. So if just the fact that you can think that there can be good without selflessness in and of itself means it exists. Because you're thinking of it. If it didn't exist, you wouldn't even be able to think about it. Right? Think of something that doesn't exist. You can't because it doesn't exist. Right? But if I can think of selfless good, then I imagine that I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore it is.
Yeah. I like this quote. I feel like that's the best, like, way I could wrap this up. Because, like I said, this is a very broad, like, there's not a lot of ways I can really.
I thought it was a really good segment, bro.
But
it was really good.
There's this comedian I really like. His name's Norm Macdonald. I've always been a big fan of him, but he passed away because he had cancer and he didn't tell anybody about it. But I guess for a lot of people, I always found his persona very interesting, because a lot of people found his comedy to be very like, it wasn't dumb, but the juxta of a lot of his comedy was he was playing dumb, you know. But there's this really great video that kind of dissects his comedy, and like they talk about how like and a lot of his dumb references are actually references to like serious literature and like serious literary works. And I don't know, I find that interesting, because I found there's this quote I always liked that he put out on Twitter. You know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is. He tweeted something like, the universe is cold and indifferent and it doesn't care about your pain and your anguish. And he responded to that and he said, since you and I are part of the universe, then we would also be indifferent and uncaring. We are not superior to the universe, but merely a fraction of it. And I really like that, because I feel like for some reason that comforts my thought of like, well, if I have the desire to see this good in the universe, and for some reason it kind of exists in that form of a desire, then you could argue it exists. But I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
I agree. Beautiful segment, bro. Beautiful segment.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like what's funny is that you mentioned that, and I watched A Good Place, and it talks about that.
The Good Place?
Yeah.
The show? Yeah.
It talks about like Aristotle and like the ethics and like being good. I won't go too much into it, but it does talk about that, because like most of them, you know, they're not really good humans. And this girl's like, I want to be a good person. Like, I want to learn how to be good. And then he like gives her a whole lesson about like how to be good and all these things. And I also I finished watching Manifest, which is also, it has more of like a religious tie to it, but it talks about how like being a good person and doing these things of like being and the acts of being good. So it's funny. I wonder what the universe is trying to say.
I really do like the quote you ended off on how we are a fraction of the universe, Therefore, if goodness exists in us, that means it exists in the universe.
Yeah.
Because people bring up that argument all the time about how there are times where you can feel insignificant because the world is a speck in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really think about it, nothing became something, and we are that something. Maybe we're not alone. Maybe we're not the only ones. But the fact that over millions of years, just chemicals came together to make us, where we're able to have this conversation, where we're here in this room, I think that's something beautiful that a lot of people don't appreciate as much.
Yeah.
And I think it's something to really show that you are a significant person, and that trying to see goodness in this vast space that we call the universe, I think in itself is a miracle.
Yeah.
And in of itself is something to be proud of, and in of itself is something to feel good about. So I like that you really brought that up, because I think that kind of is a perfect bank statement on how to end the show for this week.
See, everyone has a purpose.
Yeah, that was a really good segment, man.
The point is, everything's cool.
The point is that
We haven't done that.
if
Have we not done that?
Have we not done that?
this year, this is the first. Everything's cool.
This is the first.
I think
Everything's
so.
Cool.
Well, we earned it. We really earned it.
We earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope for a better tomorrow, and do the right thing.
Be good.
Yeah,
And
be a good person. But remember, at the end of the day, everything's cool.
Just a quick shout out to the Patreons.
Yeah, shout out to all our patrons. Shout out to Yoel. Shout out to Jada Chicano. Shout out to Daniel Villanueva. Shout out to Sarah without an H. And shout out to Carlos. We're starting to collect some patrons out there, guys. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. Get jealous, because we're about to talk about Goonie.
We greatly appreciate your patronage. If anyone out there is ever interested in joining the Patreon, our link is always in the bio. We have a lot of interesting content on there, as Julie mentioned earlier.
We started posting vlogs.
We talk about a lot of Too Hot for TV stuff.
Yeah.
And we're about to do that right now. So if you want to see that, join our Patreon, please. But we hope everybody watching enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.